So let's talk about another important React features in context of the Next.js. Here we are talking about useTransition. So this is actually the website which talks about all these features. People are writing React but still not aware that what are the latest features of React 18, React 19 and what are coming up, right? So that's why I'm just covering some couple of videos. So this is automatic batching. It's already enabled, so automatic batch will happen. This is the transition. So sometimes some updates are urgent when you update a state and you want that effect on the UI right away. But some are non-urgent transitions, right? So let's say you are doing set input value input. So when you are doing a key type, when you are typing something in the keyboard or in the text field, you want that update right away, right? But some are non-urgent where you can use a transition, start transition, and you can put that state update here. So update wrapped in the transitions are handled as a non-urgent. Okay, they will be interrupted if more urgent updates like click any key press come in. So let's say I'm doing a set input value, set counter value, set update value before that. So these are the urgent task for React. This is the non-urgent task. So if you compare both of them, React will always prioritize this thing over this because this is inside a transition. React is considering them as a non-urgent task. So let's see this thing in the demo and try to understand. So this is the transition state, transition component. I collected these examples so that I can explain with the demo. So here we have start transition and this is I wrapped without transition. So you can say this can be considered as an urgent update. Okay, this can be considered as a non-urgent. And what we are doing, set transition, we are updating the amount value. Set amount, set selected. So when this you are printing selected, 10, 100. When you are clicking onto this, it is just making that button selected. And if the button is selected, then you are making that button active. That's it. So I added some styles. So this is the grid component. Sorry, this is the tab button component. If is active, that means that button will have this particular class. So this is considered as a urgent update, right? By marking that particular button selected through this component, right? Selected 100, 10, 50 because we are updating the set selected an amount. So selected amount, if it is 10, this will get active state right away. This will get right away. So there are three different buttons we have. Let me show you. These are three different buttons. By default, it is 10. If you see the amount is 10, so it is selected, it is active. Now, there are two transitions are happening here. One is this, and then there is a non-urgent update is happening through this set count. And non-urgent update is happening here. So whenever the transition state runs, is pending will become true until unless the transition is over. So we will be just showing rendering and then this grid. What this grid component is doing? This grid component is just creating this grid and populating this grid inside this div. So if you just try to inspect, these are just like HTML div node. You can see there are 10 grid. When I click on 100, there are 100 grid. When I click on 500, there are 500 grid. So this should be the slowest and we should be using useTransition here because it is doing lots of things. So when you click on any particular div, what is urgent update? Selecting that button, that is urgent. But what is non-urgent? Rendering and creating the whole div. So for that we have put all these things inside a transition. So when you click onto it, this is urgent. We put this in selected true and then rendering is happening. This is also, this is fastest because there are 10 div it is creating. It is little slower and it is the slowest. You can see. And what is urgent task here? Marking the button selected is urgent. That is happening right away. But when you are rendering this whole process, rendering the whole div, that is the slowest, and that we are putting inside a transition. So this is a simple example talking about how we can use a start transition. You can put anything inside a set transition, start transition hook, this callback, whatever is non-urgent and that takes time, you can put inside this. And whatever is urgent, obviously you will put here. So the automatic batching will not be applied here because you override it by using start transition. So once this is done, your grid will render, and rendering process will still be there till you are doing the transition. So what is happening? You click on start transition, update the count, update the amount, and it will re-render. Once it will re-render, it will also re-render the grid component, and grid component will be rendered once all the divs are compiled correctly inside these rows. I mean, obviously you are actually creating 500 div for the React. It is lot of work, and this transition is pending will become false only when this whole work of re-rendering reconciliation is over by React. Then only this is pending will become false. So it's not like, okay, I put the start transition, set amount will happen. Obviously it will happen right away, but the whole cycle of re-rendering, because grid component will receive count 500. Grid component will start creating grid 500 grid. So for React, the whole reconciliation re-rendering is over when React is able to construct all the div. Only then this is pending will become false, because who is making sure is pending is getting toggled false? React is making sure of that. So this is happening right away, and then when you click on to this, it is showing re-rendering because reconciliation re-rendering is happening, 500 divs are getting constructed, and then it is making is pending false. So this is very important concept to understand how this transition state happens. Now in the next video, we will talk about suspense and loading. I mean, this is little old, nothing new, but React has improvised on the lazy loading of the component, which are doing a bulk fetch of data from the APIs.